Hello and welcome. Happy Thursday. Hope you are having a wonderful week. For those of you who are watching and are completing and finalizing your traditional full-time MBA applications this week, congratulations. This is a huge milestone. So take the weekend to celebrate and then, of course, back to work with interview preparations. If you are starting this process as a deferred applicant or joining us as a deferred applicant, welcome. And I'm really excited to be here with you. This is our last session that we're going to dedicate to the deferred MBA applications. We've had a few sessions beforehand. So if this is the first time you're watching our videos, definitely check out other videos that we have on our YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the MBA deferred application. We're going to talk through, what does it mean? Why is it important? What does it mean to actually put together a strong application? And what are some elements that you need to keep in mind as you draft your applications and how you should be thinking about them? I would invite you to, or not would, I invite you to write in your comments wherever you're joining us from. What schools are you looking for, where you are in the application, and why are you even considering a deferred MBA? It's really interesting to me to understand where people are coming from, how they're viewing the MBA or deferred MBA option. And of course, I'll be here to answer questions that you may have. I'll be looking at the screen because I do have another monitor that monitors comments. So I'll be looking at those to make sure that I'm addressing those comments as they come in. Excellent. So let's dive right in. We have had an increase in audience. So thank you all for joining us, for watching, for following. And I think it's appropriate for us to for me to speak a little bit about who we are, who I am, and before of course diving into the presentation today. So SIA Admissions is a boutique admission coaching firm. We've been in business officially since 2017, coaching high ambitious applicants through the MBA application journey. That includes deferred applicants as well as traditional full-time MBA applicants. We approach our coaching process very personal and very much tailored coaching to the applicant, what their journey has been, what their experiences have been, what their needs are, and of course supporting them through the entire process, guiding them on all the different components of the application, excluding test prep, of course. We spend quite a substantial amount of time getting to know our clients that we work with and getting to know what experiences have shaped them. You'd be surprised how many times we uncover experiences that they didn't think were valuable, but end up being as an anchor that we guide the application, which has yielded quite a lot of success. We do have a comprehensive coaching approach, which means we know that when you start this journey, you have to complete several items in the application journey, but oftentimes because you're going through this for the first time, you don't know all the different pieces that you need to consider to put together a very strong application that is compelling for the admission team. And for that reason, we structure our coaching comprehensively to make sure that we guide you through every single step that you have to go through to put together and present a strong candidate. Who am I? So I am the founder of SIA Admissions, and I founded SIA with the purpose of keeping it very much personal, having encountered essentially other individuals who were working with some coaches who essentially didn't give that or gave them very sort of minimal macro level guidance, and we purposefully maintain SIA very much personal over the amount of time that we had, or since we founded the company. I'm an alumnus of NYU and Yale, and storytelling is one of my fortes. One of the things that I love working with people to uncover and help them develop and communicate it in a way that is compelling, of course, to the admission teams. So today we're going to focus, as I mentioned, on the deferred MBAs. So, understand what makes this a unique program. Why is it valuable? Why should you consider it? We're also going to talk about how to craft a compelling application and some of the common mistakes to avoid, particularly having seen applicants go through this process, year after year. If I can impart some knowledge in this journey to try to avoid, because whether you like it or not, the deferred MBA application is a once in a lifetime. You are not eligible to apply again. So that would be to the deferred program. Of course, you are eligible to apply to the full-time program once you have the minimum requisite years of work experience, but you really want to make sure that you are not leaving anything on the table if you can. I have Q&A at the end of the agenda because obviously we work in a linear world. But I do encourage you to write your questions in the comment at any point during the presentation. I will be looking to my right, and this way I can see and monitor who is asking questions along the way. All right, so with that out of the way, why don't we get started right away? So what makes a deferred MBA unique is that it is actually a program that is specifically designed for those who do not have any years of work experience, full-time work experience. Internships, extracurricular involvements, those don't count. So long as you are a college senior who hasn't taken breaks and worked full-time, before completing your college, your four-year college, or a master's student who hasn't taken a break in between college and or university and the master's program, you are eligible. Some people who are not eligible are MDs, PhDs, JDs. Those are typically not eligible for the deferred program. So this unique opportunity is for you essentially to have a chance to secure your seat at a top MBA program. This means that you can, once you have a seat at the table, you can leverage the network at the school, and you have also an opportunity to really customize your experience pre-MBA in a way that helps you get to the goal that you want without necessarily worrying if this particular job is going to make me a strong candidate for X school that I plan to apply in the future. So it does alleviate some of the anxiety that happens if you know, especially that you want to do you want to have an MBA, and allows you to really explore and choose the right opportunities as opposed to the opportunities that look good on paper. Because sometimes, of course, we want things that look good on paper for sure, but there are some ambitions that do require some experiences that may not necessarily be the traditional path, and the deferred MBA program is the right program for that kind of candidate. So in terms of the difference between the deferred application and the MBA, full-time traditional MBA application, the admission team doesn't have any work experience to rely on other than your, of course, extracurriculars and internship experiences. They are looking for individuals who can demonstrate that they are high achievers, who are looking to make an impact, who have the potential to be leaders, and have clear directionality as to where they're going. If you are looking to have that exploration opportunity, you do need to know why are you exploring, right? So this is not the college application that you may have been accustomed to when you applied in undergrad, where you could apply as undecided and still be accepted into a program and navigate during the 4 years in deciding what you want to study. This program, it's not that kind of program. They are looking for individuals who have clarity in terms of why they need an MBA, where they're looking to eventually get to in their career, but want the flexibility to look for opportunities that are in alignment with those particular goals that are not necessarily the traditional path, or individuals in those career paths are not may essentially be dissuaded from applying to business school later down the line. So I'm thinking, engineers, private equity analysts, etc. They are, of course, as I mentioned, focusing less on your work experience and more on academic extracurriculars and internship experiences and the achievements that you've had. Oftentimes, as an intern, you're not necessarily going to have a lot of opportunity to make a drastic impact, although an impact should still be made. The extracurriculars do allow to see your involvement, your leadership potential, and how you engage in communities. And those are a really important component of the deferred program. So I already alluded to this. Deferred MBAs offer that early career security, flexibility to explore opportunities, and you have really access to an unparalleled network that you may not have access to without securing the deferred MBA until you, of course, have gained access to that school at some point in the future. This allows you to leverage the network for opportunities, leverage the network for guidance on what are some of the ways that you can navigate your career. That is instrumental in this journey. Excellent. So I have a comment. Sorry, I'm going to stop for a moment. I have a comment from someone on Instagram who's saying, I have 3.5 years of work experience as a lawyer. I quit my job due to medical emergency 6 months ago. Can I apply to the deferred MBA program? No, unfortunately, you have 3.5 years of work experience, so you can apply as a full-time traditional MBA candidate. So I would say at this point, round 2 deadlines have just passed. So I would say maybe try and target round 1 next year. I'll be happy to talk to you more about your experiences. What have you been doing in the past 6 months? So definitely reach out. If you go to cadmissions.com, we can schedule a call and discuss your profile and what you're looking to do. But deferred programs are no professional work experience. So you would be able to apply as a full-time candidate, especially because you meet the minimum threshold of 2 years of work experience post-undergraduate or post-degree, essentially. Excellent. All right, so let's continue. Again, if you have a question, please write it in the comment of whichever platform you're joining. I won't be sharing your name on screen, so do not worry about that. This way you can have your question answered live. I was told not to touch the table because my video shakes, so I'm trying not to touch the table. Okay, so next component that we have to think about is, why does it matter? Like, why shouldn't business schools just focus on your test scores, your GPA, kind of just more numeric evaluation? And that would make for quite a boring class, to be honest, if that's the only reason. And it would also be limited to individuals who just have strong tests. Business school is all about experiences. It's about leadership. It's about community involvement. And they want to see that you are someone who is dynamic, who thinks beyond the metrics of your experiences. And of course, if you didn't perform well in some classes and you don't have necessarily the ideal GPA or GMAT score, you don't want to be penalized for the rest of your life based on that experience. I would hope not. So storytelling plays a huge role in MBA and deferred MBA applications. So storytelling comes from involved in terms of communicating who you are, what values do you hold, where you headed, what is the motivation, what is your why in Simon Sinek's terminology, and why is an MBA important for your vision to come to fruition. This is an integral component because it does help the admission team see the holistic image of what your experiences have been and how an MBA can be a support in this journey. They have more applicants than they have seats at the table. If you think about, Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, the Holy Trinity, essentially, as they're dubbed, they have, anywhere between, 5% to close to 20% admission rate in the deferred application process, and we've seen quite a drastic increase in applicants as well. So how do you stand out in those pools of applicants where admission teams have way too many applicants, right? So your test scores are not going to be the thing that gets you in. No matter how much people talk about that, it's not the element. It's one component of your full application, but it's not the only thing. So yes, get a competitive score. This is a very competitive pool, much more than the traditional MBA candidate pool. But it's also about the rest of your story. It's about your motivations. It's about your career vision. Right, they are looking for elite candidates who have a vision to make an impact in the world, and that's what your application must communicate in order for you to be a part of this, group of people in terms of accessing the networks that you are looking to access, given that you are applying. And the admission team does want to see clarity in your vision in terms of your goals and alignment with an MBA. If you're looking to have a career that it's not MBA centric or not business centric, then you really have to communicate, why do you need an MBA? Is it just for the name, which that would be an erroneous way to approach the application, or is it more for the opportunities, the learnings, the perspectives that you gain that will help you become a stronger leader, someone who is going to be able to have greater impact in the communities on the broader sense of the word that you look to impact in your future, whether that's short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So what are some key components? And I'm going to cover very macro level components of the application. There are so many different pieces that play a huge role in this process, but let's just think about the things that you guys always talk about, right? So your resume. How do you write a compelling application? So first and foremost, your resume for MBA is different than a resume for your job. Typically, in the job that you are applying, the experiences that you've had are in alignment. You speak the same language. You can incorporate jargon. It's much more understandable for the audience. But the admission team may not have had experience in your field, so you do need to be mindful of who your audience is when you are communicating your experience. So no jargon should be applied in business school applications, and you want to highlight your leadership role and measurable impact as much as possible. We understand, of course, that sometimes impact is not measurable. There's no quantitative metric that you can include, but where possible, you definitely must communicate that. One of the biggest pitfalls that I see applicants make in terms of the resume, it's just focusing on the measurable impact and not talking about themselves. And this is a huge missed opportunity in terms of telling a story, right? This is all about storytelling. And if you only talk about the outcome, that's great. It shows that you have had impact, or it shows that impact has been had, whether you have made the impact or someone else in your team has made the impact. What your role has been in that entire process is not very clear to them. And I say those things because that's the component that you need to communicate in your MBA resume. That is different from a traditional job resume. Of course, in your resume, to tell a compelling story, and recognizing that, of course, the application's essays will have, typically it's like one story per essay. You will have a limited amount of space to communicate what your experiences have been. So you want to include, obviously, your internships, your extracurriculars, or volunteer work that you have initiated, that have been a leader in. Just being a member and showing up to events that someone else hosts is not something that should be in your resume. It actually detracts and diminishes the quality of your application if you choose to include stuff like that. So you do need to have a leadership role to have had an impact in that community, even if you're not technically a leader, but you have taken action, you have made some kind of impact. And that is an important component that you want to make sure that you are communicating in your resume. And I assure you that a resume takes quite a bit of time to craft. So start this process early, because it's iterative in terms of development in and of itself. So essays are obviously another place where storytelling plays a huge role. There are some essays that are goal-oriented. Schools like Wharton, for example, ask the traditional question as to why, does the MBA at Wharton, or how is the MBA at Wharton going to help you get to your goals? This is a quintessential goals essay. So you really want to make sure that you are articulating, you're taking the time to capture what your goals are, be very clear in your aspirations, and then how the MBA program specifically is going to fit your timeline, fit the opportunities that you're looking to gain, and the value that is going to have in your overall narrative. You want to include personal anecdotes as much as possible. But when I say personal, I don't mean like, with your friends and with your siblings or your parents or grandparents. Those stories, unfortunately, should be very, very sparsely used in your application as much as possible. When I say personal anecdotes, I mean more personal anecdotes in your engagement in the communities, in college, in volunteer work, in a sort of like a greater community internship, those kinds of experiences. And of course, most of the time, the stories that go in there are stories where there have been some kind of challenge. What I mean by that is, if everything went perfect the entire time, there was no challenge along the way, well, that does not make for a very compelling story. I mean, imagine if you went and watched the movie and everything worked out in the entire movie. That would be quite boring. So let's, look for opportunities and experiences where you've had some kind of challenge, that you were challenged, and demonstrates how you act, how you engage in that kind of environment. Letters of recommendation also play a huge role in your deferred MBA journey. And they are individuals who help support the rest of your application. They are the ones who are going to vouch for you, essentially. So choose someone who who knows you well, who has seen you in action, not just you taking a class and you getting an A in that class. Someone who has been perhaps an advisor to some of the clubs that you have been involved in, or an internship supervisor, someone who has really seen you in action and can write with anecdotes a supportive, strong letter of recommendation indicating that you have the potential to be a leader in the future, and will have, of course, they can see that you can have a strong career in the future. One of the, I'm going to just include here a case. Like, I had a client who was an economics and French major who was looking to craft a story. They were not initially quite sure what they wanted to do. They knew that they wanted to go in business, knew the investment space that they were interested in will require eventually for them to have a MBA. And we, through the process of our discovering, spending time with the client, getting to know the stories that have shaped who they are, that have shaped their thinking, we were able to come up with a strategy around what the goals are going to be. They were actually quite authentic at the end of the day in terms of the applicant's overall narrative, what they were interested in doing, and also had that element of what a deferred applicant should have, which is the opportunity to explore career paths that are non-traditional. In this case, the applicant was looking to develop to essentially develop housing for low-income communities, and wanted an opportunity to explore sort of not the nonprofit space that is creating something like this that will allow for low-income communities to have secure spaces. And what I mean by secure, I mean that that there are precautions and that people that are in that community still feel safe, still feel cared for. It's not just having quote unquote a roof over your head. It's about having a community that is safe to be a part of, irrespective of your socioeconomic status. But that comes through the development of a narrative, the development of looking through your experiences. And it's not always clear. A lot of applicants actually struggle with that process because they haven't had necessarily enough life experiences to be able to articulate exactly what their feelings are. And oftentimes, we're not really taught on how to do that initially, right? So this is a process of self-discovery as you go through the application. Some of the major mistakes I see applicants make as deferred applicants, the first one is being too sort of generic as to the reason why you want a deferred MBA, why you're applying to this particular school. The language that is in quotation mark it reads essentially, I don't know if you can see it, but I want an MBA because it's prestigious. I want to attend your school because you are the best. Language like that, it's not very interesting to the admission teams. They, like it or not, they understand where they fall in the pedigree of business school, and they're really looking for individuals who see beyond the sort of like the brand prestige, that is really looking to be in a community that is authentic, and that aligns with their values, right? So you need to be more authentic in your application in order to communicate that they are the best without telling them that they are the best, right? So that's one of the mistakes that I see applicants make. It's a huge one because it does genuinely diminish the quality of application when I read something like that on there. And again, I'm small potatoes in the grand scheme of things of how many applicants that the business school admission teams see in terms of the applications. So keep that in mind as you are working through your applications. If you find yourself writing that, if you need to write it for the purposes of like, I have to get it out of my chest, that's okay. But again, iterations later, that should come out before it shows up in the inbox of the admission team. Applicants also focus too much on academics and not enough on leadership and extracurriculars. You are applying to business school. That is really important to keep in mind. Yes, we care about academics, we care about your GPA, we care about your GMAT or GRE. Those make a lot of sense. However, this is business school training future leaders who are going to have an impact in the future of business. So you have to emulate that in your application. So pay close attention to what are you emphasizing in the holistic view of your presentation. Also, something that I oftentimes see, especially with deferred candidates, more so than traditional candidates, is the neglecting to research and tailor the application to each program. Sometimes I hear language like, well, I'll do more research when I get admitted. That is actually the worst way you can approach your MBA application because I'm just going to be very frank and very honest. You probably won't have a chance to evaluate and do research if you don't do the research beforehand. And why do I say that? Is because if you're not able to capture what makes the school unique and why is their unique approach, their unique culture, their unique methodologies, why those are important to you, why those bring value to you in terms of your goals and where you want to go, the kind of community you want to be a part of, there won't be a chance for you to attend, right? Because you haven't captured that element that they're looking for in an application. So absolutely conduct research, diligent research in not just on the websites, but also communicating with students, alumni, admission reps, attending all of their events, really getting to know the schools and what their culture is, you won't see it the first time. And if you go once across all schools that you're considering, attend one event, it will all sound the same. But once you start spending time with those communities, you will start seeing patterns that distinguish one school from another. And each one has its own culture. So it's really important to do your research. And okay, so what you should be doing, right? Start early in the application process. I said earlier that this is an iterative process, and really take my word for that. It's an iterative process. One of the mistakes that I hear applicants, especially those who come to SIA after they've tried to work on the applications on their own, and they share some of the materials that they've written, and it needs, essentially, oftentimes it needs an entire rewrite. And one of the things that I always hear is, I wish I started this process early, or I wish I came to you earlier, because now I know where my mistakes are and that I didn't know when I was applying initially, or when I was putting this essay together. I didn't know that this presentation could have a negative view, or maybe not even a negative, or just a neutral view of myself as a candidate, right? So neutrality is not really the thing that we want in business school applications, just to say that. So give yourself enough time. Start early so you have time to polish, and don't wait until last minute. I know that you guys leave your assignments for school for last minute, the night before it's due. You're staying up all night writing your materials. That's not how you should approach your deferred application. You obviously also want to be authentic, showcase your genuine strength, and you have to spend time recognizing what your genuine strengths are in order for you to communicate them. They won't invite you to interview unless you have communicating something that is compelling to them. So you won't even have a chance to interview if you don't take the time to recognize your value and communicate that value as something that they should want to have as part of their community. Of course, seek feedback, whether that's your mentors, coaches. If you're working with a professional who does this for a living, they're the ones who can guide you, navigate if you're going in the right direction or not. And start this process early. Anytime you are relying on other people, you have to recognize that they are going to be, you have to take into account their availability as well. So starting early is definitely going to make sure that you have your priorities in line, and have the commitments of the individuals that you need support from. And last things, in terms of why do you need guidance? Putting together applications, no matter how difficult you think it's going to be, it's actually more difficult. Because it does take quite a bit of time to put together and communicate your stories effectively, right? Because you have all your stories in your mind, you have all your experiences in your memories, but you have to recognize that the admission team doesn't know you. And if you don't take time to capture and weave in your entire narrative, they won't get a chance to ask you questions, right? So you have to spend the time to do that early on. A coach can help you, identify those blind spots that you don't get to see. They can help you identify what are some areas that keep your application in neutral zone, which is neither good nor bad. It just is. We see this so many times. It's not unique to you. And those are essentially things that you really want to try to avoid. And if you are in the neutral zone, it's not about, okay, I'm going to just eliminate it. It's really about, how can I make sure that I communicate it in a way that showcases how my perspective about this experience is unique to me, and it's going to bring a unique perspective to the MBA classroom. Right? We help applicants through this process every single year, and attending top, M7's top, 15 schools that offer these deferred programs. So if you want to reach out and have a conversation, definitely feel free to reach out. There is a QR code on the screen, but if you go to seadmissions.com, you can definitely schedule a consultation to talk about your profile and how we can support you communicate your experiences in a way that is compelling for business schools. As usual, I get really excited about these topics and I always go over time. So I thank you for your patience and for being here with me longer than our usual 30-minute slot. Whether you are joining or staying here with me live or rewatching this, thank you for being here. Let us know if this was helpful by giving this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel so you're notified about our future events. And I'm looking forward to our next week's session where we're going to actually move into the ROI for a deferred MBA. So if you're thinking about what are some career paths that give you a better ROI if you are wanting to do an MBA. So this is a major topic. So whether you're a deferred candidate or not, definitely join us. And I'm excited to see you then. Excellent. So have a great rest of your Thursday and what's remaining of the week. And I will see you next week, Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss the ROI for MBA in terms of careers post the degree. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening.